Welcome to the week of wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Tony Chambliss. I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Payne. How's it going, man?
You're going very good. Honestly, was looking to crash and get some sleep, but you know what? I mean, like news travels fast. Honestly,
It really does. It really does. So, if you guys don't know what we're doing tonight, normally we wouldn't talk about a random episode of Dynamite. We usually will go to the big events or like the TV events if we're going to talk about it. But tonight was kind of a very important episode of Dynamite because a lot of stuff happened. If you guys didn't know, Tony Khan and AEW decided to release the all-in footage from the Jack Perry and CM Punk fight. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions on this. I have my opinion as well. Um, But before we do that, let's talk about the overall episode of Dynamite, and then we'll go into more specifically that portion and what we thought about it towards the end. Ryan, you want to start?
I mean, regarding like recapping Dynamite, it was pretty. It was a pretty good show, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how when they opened up, they were going to give us the world title eliminator match between Joe and Dustin Rose was going to open the show, but then I like that little swerve, pun intended, with Swerve
There you
showing
go.
up and attacking Joe. Leads to that nice little brawl, leads around the ramp to where they crash in the table, to where they're giving at least an excuse. I liked that little part there because it's showing, because reminding people from last week how Joe left Swerve bloody during the contract signing, and Swerve
Mm-hmm.
was definitely not going to take that line down, and also puts Joe in a bit of a physical handicap going into his match against Dustin Rhodes. So
And also, it reinforces the idea of Swerve Strickland, which is on site. So the moment that he saw Joe, he knew I'm not going to wait until after the match. I'm not going to wait till Dynasty. I'm not going to wait till next week. I'm going to attack this dude on site right now because Swerve Strickland does hold grudges, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, and it just not reinforces that, but also shows that Swerve is definitely a different competitor for Joe to go up against. He's not
Mm.
somebody who's just gonna wait until, like you said, wait until the pay per view, like most of his previous challengers, or at least for the championship match.
Yeah,
And also, I mean,
but
even going back from the match build leading to Revolution when it was Swerve, Hangman, and Joe, Swerve had so much of his focus put at Hangman that Joe was able to just creep in and creep out whenever he wanted to. So this
yep,
is Swerve putting all his attention on Joe.
yep. So after that, Swerve put Joe through a table on the outside, which was awesome. We immediately cut to, I believe it's break, and then after we come back from break, we have the actual opening contest for the TNT Championship. It's the Cope Open as Adam Copeland, the champion, defends against Penta El Zero Miedo,
Yep.
and I fucking love this match, man. It was. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I heard you say I love this match, and then you stopped.
Yeah. So it was about 20 minutes of just hard hitting strikes. But one thing I love about this match is that it seems like Copeland, the great thing about him is that he will wrestle the type of match his opponent's style of match. So against Daniel Garcia, it was more ground based, more technical style. Against Christian Cage, more of a brawling, of an actual fighting because they had a blood feud. And this one, Copeland is flying around with hurricanranas and fucking head scissor takeovers and things, matching the kind of lucha style of Penta. And I think it worked really well.
Honestly, it did, and it's one thing I did appreciate the match. Like we saw, like Adam was showing in the match, like some of the stamina, like
Mm,
the story that was the storytelling with the stamina though. Like he definitely was not ready to go. Looked like, even though it's a Cope Open match, and during the wrestling, you do see that it's clear that he was not physically ready for Penta's offense. And
mm,
I liked how throughout majority of the match he was constantly on defense, not being able
mm-hmm.
to at least put up a. every time he would make a comeback, he'd immediately get shut down by Penta until we got later into the match where Adams finally started to be more consistent. It was that electric chair into the face plant that definitely was
Yeah,
a turnaround.
yeah. And the end of this match was great. Penta hits a sling blade, goes for a top rope cross body, and Adam Copeland just hits him with a spear. Is it just me, or does Copeland's spear seem so much more impactful in AEW than it did in WWE?
Well, I mean, at least with Copeland Spear, though, it definitely is. It's definitely executed differently because, of course, in
Mm-hmm.
WWE, you do see the way when he would do it. It was always like that big step. Where he's in the corner trying to pump things, like either as a face or a heel, just really
Mm-hmm.
trying to really psych him up for it. But now in AEW, when he does that spear, every now and then he will pull it out like it was like just like it was out of necessity.
Mm-hmm. But like, I'm talking more about the impact style because in WWE it seems like his spear didn't hurt his opponent. It seemed like he was more just grabbing them. In this one, it seems like he's put his shoulder into the spear, like a football tackle type of spear, which is a kind of a different one than he did in WWE.
Yeah.
But and then afterwards, after the match, the lights went out, and we have Julia Hart and
Brody King. Yeah.
Brody King. Yes, sorry, my mind's kind of just scattered right
Yep.
now.
That's okay.
Uh, Brody King attacks Adam Copeland from behind, setting up the trios match at Dynasty, which I kind of wish it was one-on-one, him and Black, but I do understand wanting to give Kingston and Mark Briscoe their time to shine as well. And
Well,
storyline-wise, it makes sense.
well, also, I mean, we've seen so far with the House of Black when how they've been shown on TV that they're always attacking as a group. I mean, sure, they'll attack individually, and depending on maybe Malachi's physical condition, I mean, he did wrestle last Friday against Daniels in a singles match.
Mm-hmm.
And Brody, he definitely wrestled in the Continental Classic, and Buddy Matthews, he wrestles every now and then in singles. But so far at the House of Black, mainly just seen them as a group, either in tag matches or trios matches. So honestly, fits towards their motif,
Yeah.
and also
Um,
continues the feud that Mark Briscoe has with the House of Black. And now that Mark Briscoe is Ring of Honor champion, that
him and
opens.
Eddie Kingston having to coexist.
But not just that, but because now he's champion, it opens the door for the House of Black. Maybe either one of them to challenge Mark Briscoe during for his title.
Ooh, I didn't think about that. Um, but I enjoyed this whole segment. Oh, I'm sorry, the segment's not over because as Julia Hart is in the ring, we have Willow Nightingale coming out, and it seems like she took kind of some miss to the face from Julia, but she didn't connect all the way.
Well,
I
yeah,
think that
because
was kind of a
Julia,
mistake.
she was saying up to do it on Adam, and then Willow got in the way. So some of the miss got on Willow, some of it got on Julia.
Yeah. But that also sets up for the Dynamite match with her and Julia Hart for the TBS Championship. I love what Julia's been doing with the title. I think her transformation from from cheerleader in the varsity.
Oh, varsity no. That's different. Varsity Blondes.
Varsity, yes. To now being the kind of the queen of the House of Black. It was slowly done in a way that's very effective, and it seems like she has grown more confident in this new character that she's been portraying in the last year and a half, 2 years. And that really works with her in promos, but also her in ring because it seems like she's getting so much better. Same with Sky Blue. I think when Sky Blue was able to show kind of a darker edge to her character, that's when she started getting way more better and more TV prepped, which I love seeing these kind of newer women stars getting a lot of TV time and a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, think more than just TV time. I mean, one thing I mean, so far, one thing that Tony Khan has done so far, at least with AEW, is that they brought back the standings, the rankings. I'm hoping sometime they will bring back Dark because that was also another good, because that was definitely how Julia was able to truly transition herself from the cheerleader. And even then, her story was being told over Dark, honestly, after she, because once she had gotten that black mist to the face, they were showing on Dark in her matches how her demeanor changed, how her wrestling style changed, and then when she did join the House of Black, that even then she was showing a different change to when her debut. I mean, her new brand new design with that song, "The House Always Wins," was debuted on Dark, and it
Yes,
seemed like
exactly.
Dark that works for so many of their young burgeoning talent. I mean, I really hope if there was ever a time where Tony Khan was like on Twitter or somewhere where he's going, I want to hear your voice. What do you think that we can do? I would immediately say, bring back Dark Evolution.
I don't know if I would bring back Dark because I feel like Rampage is the perfect place to highlight new talent while building their records, and that's on national TV. So they're getting more exposure that way over something that's on YouTube that you have to kind of search to find. Rampage is that perfect 1 hour block where it's like this is going to be our developmental. Like that could be their NXT. When NXT started, it was only an hour show on the network. So if you use Rampage as a way of bridging new talent and then they move up to Collision and then Dynamite, it's got a great kind of cohesion because they're all on national TV. They're all on the same kind of hierarchy.
Yeah, but beyond that, Dark wasn't just used for their homegrown talent; it was also used for local talent as well. Especially
Yeah.
even if Dark was sometimes used whenever AEW would go to when at certain venues before the actual show started, they'd at least have a few matches before Dynamite started, or the Dynamite Rampage combination or Collision started. That's why I'm thinking about Dark again. I mean, sure, I don't know. Being on YouTube is not a bad thing, honestly. Sure, people have to search for it, but it's YouTube that we're on the algorithm. I mean, maybe not just the algorithm, but because the fact that it is on YouTube, it's more easily accessed for people to go see than the constant complaints of people saying ROH is behind a paywall. I get the argument the first time, but knowing the fact that you
Mhm.
said about NXT, its original setting, its origin was behind a paywall, it's really not much of it's not much of an argument anymore, but it's more of an excuse maybe we'll try to lean on because there's so
Yeah.
much wrestling available to us.
But like the thing I'm trying to say is like to me, I would much rather them highlight younger talent and homegrown and local talent on Rampage because then that's at least going to be on national TV. So that'll give these people more eyeballs on the product on their specific talents. See what I'm saying?
I do. It's just from what I've seen of Rampage lately, it's more of a looser format structure to where they can
Mm.
actually do more with wrestling. I mean, I've seen more women compete on Rampage than I have seen them do on. I've seen more like I think I remember on Rampage they did one where they had two women's matches on there, like a tag match and then a regular singles match. Where unfortunately for some reason Warner Brothers or networks don't allow women's matches on more than one women's match on Dynamite.
Oh yeah, we only had one women's match, but we did have two women's segments and a match on
Well,
this
I mean,
Dynamite
women are
show.
getting good TV time. That's great, yeah. But I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
But looking at because here's the thing, and I'm just gonna bring this up real quickly. If fans who really were following AEW from the beginning, if you really went back, you trace back all the way from the first year Dynamite aired on TNT to maybe somewhere within their second and third year, well, maybe before the pandemic, they were actually airing. They actually had women compete. They actually had more than one women's match per
Mm.
Dynamite episode, and they used and before even they had their women's division like all settled. They really were using Dynamite as a way to introduce international talent, mainly women from not just USA talent for the women's division, because that was because that was their original game plan that Bucks and Kenny were trying to do. They want the women's division to be full of international talent, like the Joshi
Mhm.
wrestlers, like women from other areas, like from British, from the British wrestling scene, from
Mhm.
Spain, from Italy, because on Dark, that's where that's what they were heavily focusing on. But then once the
Yeah.
pandemic happened, they really had to focus more on U.S. based talent. And I don't know what happened when they started airing on television again in front of live crowds. Then they started going down to one women's match per Dynamite with a few
Mhm.
segments in there.
Yeah, yeah. We could definitely use more women's matches, but I am glad that women are now being used more often on TV. Like the Julia Hart promo tonight against Willow was awesome.
It was
Like
a good. It
the
was a good.
Willow. I love the shit she does. Technically, we got two women's
Well, yeah, there
two
was
women's
well,
segments, didn't we?
we had a lot more segments. I mean, there was the championship toast. There was a champagne toast for Thunder
I
Rosa,
love that.
Tony Storm, and then of course there was Alex Marvez talking with Mercedes Monet. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
was more segments, yeah, but beyond that, there was still one women's match, which was Mariah versus Anna Jay. And even though
Yeah,
it was a very solid match, and I did like how with Mariah's story, it's more than just the all about Eve thing with Tony Storm. It's also her relationship with Mina. I can't say her last name, but the Joshi wrestler from
yeah.
Stardom.
Mina. I can't say her last name either, but I think they just called her Mina on.
No, they would no. They say her last name. They do say her last name. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
not fully all the time, but it's like once she's introduced, and then the commentators will say her name, and then
Mm-hmm.
afterwards just Mina. But I do like what we see here. That I mean, people may not be paying attention too much to it, but I can see that they are starting something here with this little triangle that Mariah is in.
Yeah.
That's going to bleed out to Double or Nothing and possibly Forbidden Door, depending on
Mm-hmm.
how Mina's work visa is in America because right,
Yeah.
she's wrestled a few times. She's only wrestled a couple matches in ROH, and depending on how the working relationship with Stardom is going, how often
That
she
Stardom trios match at Ring of Honor. Why am I forgetting the name of it? Death Before Dishonor.
yeah, Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah, was amazing. By the way, I love showcasing that. That felt like when you watch the original ECW pay per view back in the day, where they
Okay.
had the trios match from people from New Japan, like the Taka Michinoku match. That felt like this for the Ring of Honor crowd, considering they were in Philly. So I
Yeah.
wonder if that was like an homage to that as well, because that was like a really fast Japanese Joshi type match back in the day, and now we're getting the same thing in Philly with kind of ECW's
Well, I mean, there was because they were in
predecessor.
Philly. There was definitely people were thinking of the like ECW homages, but honestly, that just felt
Mm.
to me like another like a Josie match I would watch on Stardom. I mean, I have seen a
Yeah.
couple of Stardom matches in their six woman and sometimes singles
Hmm.
matches, and it is fast paced. And to bring up, looking at Death Before Dishonor, there were four separate women's matches. I mean, they had Mariah May, they had the six woman match,
Did
the
Mariah have a match on the card?
well, it was the 0 hour.
Oh, okay.
It was she had a match on the 0 hour. Then there
Mm.
was the just six woman Josie match. Then you had Billy Stark versus Queen Amanada, and then
Athena
Athena
versus
versus
Hikaru.
Hikaru. Four women's matches on a Ring of Honor
Mm.
card, counting the 0 hour. So to me, that's 100. So to me, it's the fact that Ring of Honor was able to do that, and the most we get with AEW on a pay per view is maybe two or three women's matches at best. Definitely tells me that there is a network. There's some stupid network precedent that's preventing AEW from utilizing more of the women's division. That's why when
Yeah.
everyone makes these complaints, or I mean, there are some points to be made at the women's division, but the more every time people keep saying, "Oh, give women more," like there's not enough women in the division. How can you tell? We're only seeing one match every now and then. So I mean, no, I know. I mean, people are gonna say, "Oh, well, we can pull up the roster." Like you can pull up the roster as much as you want. To me, it's like if network is not allowing AEW to show more women, not just in segments, but giving them opportunities to do more opportunities in matches. That to me is like already the AEW is already working like with one hand tied behind their back with the women's
Hmm.
division. Even if they do get producers, they get good talent coaches that work with the talent when it comes to wrestling. Even if they get some women to be more vocal for TK to speak up for more storylines, it won't matter much when the fact every now and then we're going to see maybe 5 or 6 men's matches in a 2 hour block, and then we'll still get one women's match.
Yeah, but going back on track a little bit, I do like how this storyline with Mariah May and I can't say her first name. Is it Misa or is it Minsa?
I believe it's Mina. Yeah.
Mina? Mina.
Yeah.
That sounds right. But that started at the Ring of Honor show because Mariah May came out after the
Mina
trios match.
Shirakawa. Shirakawa.
Shirakawa. There we go. But I like kind of the synergy of like they're kind of connected with Ring of Honor, but they're not. Like it's not like it was before, where like you'd have Ring of Honor title defenses on AEW TV, but like little storylines here and there pay off if you watch a Ring of Honor show.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to
Okay.
Hook, Chris Jericho, and Katsuyori Shibata versus Shane Taylor Promotions.
Mm-hmm.
I am because I know afterwards in the card is the all in footage stuff. I want to save that for after we go through the card, but I do want to bring up the Will Ospreay promo.
Oof.
Oh my god! For people who don't know the backstory, and I'm not sure, Ryan, did you know the backstory of this? Kind of why he took the
Oh,
shot.
I caught that. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's
So
go ahead.
Triple H during an interview, I don't know if it was after at a press junket
I
or if
think
it
it
was
was
I don't know.
during the hall. I think it was during like that section before the Hall of Fame on Saturday because that's when that clip was released. No,
Yeah,
Friday.
so
Yeah, Friday. Yeah.
pretty much Triple
Or,
H was
or
asked
was it
about
before
missing
night
out.
one? I mean, I don't know. It was during that. It was during like those little hour blocks that WWE likes to do
Mm-hmm.
before their televised events on Peacock or yeah for their PLEs. So
Yeah. So Triple H was asked about missing out on free agents, and he said we pretty much to the point of we don't want someone who doesn't want to work on our schedule and is afraid of the grind. And when you look at the people he was talking to, think about the international, you know, the international people that he was looking at bringing in. Will Ospreay was number one on that list. You know, like he had the choice to go to AEW or WWE
yeah,
because they both made offers to him. So one saying that Will Ospreay is afraid of the grind is so fucking stupid because you knew when when offering him a contract that he has said multiple times he is not willing to move his family from the UK to the US. That is one thing he did not want to do. Tony Khan was okay with that, so he went with AEW.
yeah.
So now to come out and say we don't want someone who is afraid of the grind is sounding like the guy who, and I'm taking this from Sean Ross Sapp. It sounds like the guy who asked a girl out to prom, she says no, and then he comes back with, "Well, I didn't want to go with you anyway."
Yeah.
Like you offered him a contract, you knew that the condition was he did not want to move his family from the UK to the US, and you offered him a contract anyway. He declined. He went to AEW because they would allow him to travel from the UK to the US once a week to wrestle.
Yeah.
So Ospreay comes out, and I don't think this was on the card to begin with because he did say
No,
he too.
no, there was like a few like little like surprises there, and I wanted to add more on that. When I first saw that that little interview clip that Triple H did, I thought it was personally I thought he should not be making those kind of comments even with source talent, especially given the last year he had suffered a major health condition over heart failure.
Mm-hmm.
And what's one of the things that contributes to heart failure other than like bad health? Well, stress. Stress contributes to that. And currently, right now, he's working in a bit of a stressful job. Maybe he's used to working in an environment like that for so many years. But
Mm-hmm.
who knows? But now, regarding with this whole merger with TKO, and the fact that Triple H no longer having to talk about Vince. Sure, TKO gives him free responsibilities, but there's still a board he has to report to, and the fact that Rock is on that board, there's a lot of politicking involved. And for someone in Triple H's condition to focus, I honestly, for somebody, I think him with less stress in his life would be a good thing. And
Hmm.
and I'm not saying that if it was him in that situation, like if he was someone who wanted to work on a lighter schedule, I'm not trying to call him a hypocrite. I'm just saying for someone like him last year to suffer a serious health condition and then criticize a wrestler, either if it was regarding Will Ospreay or not, who wanted to work lighter days and not having to worry so much on stress, putting them down physically and mentally. It really sounds to me Triple H really it honestly to me it's a mixture of pettiness and a little bit having one foot off of reality.
It also is funny when he's like, um, we want people who work on our schedule, but you're okay with Roman Reigns taking 6 to 9 months off at a time, sitting home in Florida, doing nothing, not defending his world
Yeah,
title.
while you're
But you're
building up this world, while you're building up this legacy of him becoming a long
yeah,
reigning dominant champion,
but you're
and
not okay with Will Ospreay being willing to come out once a week, every week to wrestle for you. But
yeah,
that's too much.
I think what most people, and I mean most idiots and fans are going to say is that the difference with Roman is that he worked his ass off so he get that time off.
So did Ospreay. Did you not see
Yes,
Ospreay's 20
yeah,
plus
but the thing is, they're
years?
gonna say he did that. Roman did that in WWE, so he's earned it. But just because Osprey doesn't have that WWE history that Roman does, is no. It doesn't give it doesn't mean a damn thing.
Mhm.
I mean, if we were to contribute this to sport, like other sports, like baseball or football, if let's say the Cardinals was able to sign a talent, if they were able to successfully get a trade, or if they were trying to negotiate a trade for someone from the Patriots, but this one athlete said, I'll come play for you, but in exchange, I want a lighter work, I want a lighter schedule. I'll
Mhm.
come to practices, just not like let's say it's the Cardinals, they do 3 day practices. Instead, he says I want to come once a day, and because he wants to spend more time and he wants to focus more time on maybe because he's hurt, maybe because it's just the way he wants to do it.
Mhm.
Okay, I know some people are going to be like, where are you going with this? What I'm trying to say is that whatever an athlete demands are, it ultimately falls on you as either the recruiter or the management or the talent
Mhm.
manager to really think, will this work for you? If it doesn't, then guess what? The talent can move on, and you can scout for other talent you want to bring into
Yep.
your company. Don't waste your time going on interviews and then getting all petty, being like, "Oh, he didn't want to go with us because he wanted to work a lighter schedule." I'm sorry, but seeing what WWE does on their work scheduling, the fact that they got Raw, SmackDown, main event, house shows, which house shows, depending on what state they're in, can be in 3 different cities,
Yep.
and wrestlers have to rely on getting their own transportation, getting their own type. I mean, we for Christ's sakes, most of us wrestling fans should know by now. WWE does not treat their wrestlers as employees. They've been independent contractors under the Vince
Mhm.
McMahon regime. Maybe it might get some change under TKO. Under TKO, personally, I don't think so because
I
we
don't
haven't
think
seen a
so.
yeah, we haven't seen that much. At least one of the positives I always say about AEW is that AEW not only gives their wrestlers lighter schedules, but they are willing to now they're offering them health insurance, they're offering them
Mhm.
ways to work other dates outside of AEW commitments. So if a wrestler wants to be an AEW wrestler, but he still wants to like work close within their hometown for wrestling dates, guess what? They're allowed to as long as they're able to as long as within their contract obligation, they can at least attend 10 or 12 AEW shows in the year.
Mhm.
And I'm
And
saying in the
that
year.
makes them independent contractors
Yes.
because they are allowed. Unlike WWE wrestlers, WWE wrestlers are not allowed to go anywhere else. They're not allowed to compete for any other
Yes.
promotion. But
Yeah,
they're
and even
still
if a wrestler is
contracted
not
under
being used on a
independent
damn
contractors.
card, even if there's
Mhm.
nothing available for the wrestler in WWE, they still have to be open and available just in case. At least in
Yep.
AEW, it's like we have nothing available for you. Okay, you can go. You can be at home, or you can work some dark matches, or oh, is there something? Is there you want to go? You want to go over to England and work some pro
Mm-hmm.
wrestling shows? Great. You want to go to AAA and work some shows? Go for it. What you want to go to Stardom or you want to go to New Japan? Go for it. That's one
Yeah,
of the things I
but
always. It's a double edged sword with AEW because sometimes depending on the popularity of that wrestler,
mm-hmm.
it can come at a time to where oh, but we have this great storyline with you, and we
Yeah,
don't want to lose that momentum. So sometimes we are going to get those hot and cold pushes that we've seen with a few
I
wrestlers.
think Pac is a big example of that.
Well, Pac, unfortunately, he does. He's just like Osprey. He's not willing to bring his family to America. He's willing to
Mm,
stay in London, and he's been hurt a couple of times. Unfortunately,
yeah,
hell, the last time he did come back, he got hurt just 2 weeks later.
yeah.
Well, I think
So
they're trying to be very lenient with him.
yeah, so let's get back on topic for a minute. We were on the Will Ospreay promo.
Yeah,
Um, Will Ospreay has one of the greatest play on words in a promo I've ever heard recently, which was I'm trying to remember it correctly. You can't say I don't like the grind when
I
the
don't.
grind oh when the only reason you're in the position you're in is because you grinded up to the boss's daughter.
Yeah. So many fans are gonna think this is AW taking the cheap shot, but they have done this shot before, and they want to bring up Punk. Punk made that fucking shot in a promo against MJF.
Yep.
It's mainly, honestly, this AW is just gonna. So many of these anti-AW fans are gonna work on selective memory. Of course, they're gonna say, "Oh, I don't watch the product," and I'm like, "Well, why the fuck are you talking about it? If you're
Yeah.
talking but you know what? But like we've talked before on Messenger. Those fans are lost. Those people are lost causes. They're just doing it
Hmm.
for clout and fanning and farming engagement. But those who have like certified profiles who are trying to be like wrestling pundits and making these opinions, I'm going, guys. This is wrestling. It doesn't matter if you want to relate to WCW or earlier days during NWA or ECW. I'm sorry, but
Thank God during the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, social media was not a thing.
yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I'm pretty. No, I mean, social media would have been a very. It would have been a dangerous place to be on because I can tell because this was around the Monday Night Wars was definitely around the time where kayfabe was still alive before Vince took it out into a pasture and shot it dead. Many of these fans would have been people sending death threats to these wrestlers. They would have sent death threats.
People do that today, and they
I
know
know,
people.
but they would have been more vocal about it during that time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
this time in social media, they have these anonymous profiles to hide behind. But I'm saying
Hmm.
they would not have been afraid to use their actual profiles or like use like their actual Hotmail addresses to actually send these death threats.
Yeah.
Just
So
today,
after,
they can be able to easily create 4 or 5 fake accounts and then
yeah.
just like shoot this stuff out.
So let's get to this trios match, which again was Shane Taylor
Jericho, Hulk
Promotions,
Shibata versus Shane Taylor Promotions.
which is Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, and a returning Anthony Ogogo.
Yeah, that's someone
Which
who has been on the shelf for a long time.
adding Anthony Ogogo to the Shane Taylor promotion was a really good idea because all three guys have a boxing background. So now you've got three legit like fighters
Yeah.
in a group together.
But also at the same time, Lee Moriarty, he's able to not his style is he is a wrestler, but because of his
Mm,
background with striking, he's also able to be working good transitions to where he can be a good like a good hand for Anthony Gogo and Shane Taylor.
mhm.
I mean, he's a veteran in the business, so he's also someone who can be a good guiding hand for a Gogo to help transition
Yeah.
help him develop his own style in the ring than simply focus on being a striker if that's what a Gogo wants to do.
So how are you feeling about this Jericho and Hook situation? Because I am not liking this.
Honestly, because it's a Jericho storyline, I'm kind of at that point where I'm just waiting for that button to press before someone makes a turn on on somebody.
Jericho's turning on Hook.
That's unfortunate because if Jericho wanted to play this straight, if Jericho, if Jericho, ow, hitting my arm against the table. I wanted to say if Jericho could play this straight, it could be where he's not trying to be this whole character. He's like, oh, I want to mentor you. I want you to put you under my wing. I'm like, dude, you already tried doing that with Daniel Garcia for the Jericho Appreciation Society. You tried doing that with Sammy Guevara in the Inner Circle. It's literally like it's a flat circle for you, Jericho. You need to, if you wanted to make a true change, it could have just been, I lost to you badly on Dynamite. I want to get that edge back. So I'm going to work with you to get that edge back.
Yeah.
So then that way, Jericho doesn't have to be all, here's the game plan, we're going to go on in. Jericho can just be like, look, I got some advice if you want to hear it. If not, you just want to go in there and just knock some heads, I'm all for it. But that interview clearly just told me then and there that this is not going to go. This clearly, there's an expiration date on this.
Yeah.
And either I think the expiration date is either going to come by Double or Nothing, or Jericho's going to try to stretch this out to All In.
It needs to end at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, because personally to me, I don't think so, but I kind of think that maybe there could be a setup for Jericho and Shibata at All In if Jericho's not going for a championship, just a regular sparring match.
Interesting.
Like before, like Jericho had a sparring he had himself a decent match against Ospreay at All In.
Oh, it was a really good match, yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't say decent. It was a very good match. But I'm just saying, because of Jericho, I don't know if he's willing to not have himself on the card for All In. And if that is the case, I could see at least maybe trying to stretch a feud with Shibata that can go to All In. And maybe his whole focus can be on Hook. Have it end around Double or have the turnaround Double or Nothing. Then maybe it can end. Maybe add a Fighter Fest or Fight for the Fallen, and then you can start doing something with Shibata there. That's just what I'm thinking. But regarding this Matt, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know why a lot of people are now on the Jericho hate train. Like, to me, Jericho is always in my top 5 wrestlers of all time. But that's because I grew up when I was growing up, I watched Jericho's evolution. Like, that was around the time where, like, he was doing Y2J, then he was doing the suit and the big words, and he was doing things like that. I get it. Sometimes overexposure can be killer, and I think having Jericho on every single Dynamite or every single pay-per-view, you start wearing it thin. Especially because Jericho, he can still go. He can't go at a level when AEW first started, because that's when he was still he was still active, he was still going, he still had a lot to offer. But I think what they should do with Jericho is use him sparingly, use him for big moments, big matchups, or big storylines that are going to actually propel people, younger talent, to another level. I think if you use Jericho sparingly for like big pay-per-views or big time shows, you lower the kind of overexposure that Jericho is getting.
Well, I do agree that Jericho's in a bit where he has a little bit of overexposure on him, and I don't know. I think Jericho is kind of at this point in his career where he still wants to be active. He doesn't want to be pushed to the sidelines, because he knows the moment you're pushed further into the sidelines, then you'll start being, the crowd will immediately forget about you real quickly. And I think what I can see with this is how, just maybe for Jericho, if he ever does another faction again, it can just be to where he can be sort of like a mentor-manager scenario, to where he'll put the faction in front of him, but he'll still be like the headpiece of it. You know, kind of like what, got to say, in the TNA when Flair showed up, he created his own 4 Horsemen stable with AJ Styles, Kazarian, Bobby Roode, and James Storm, pretty much called Fortune.
Fortune.
Yeah. And even though it was supposed to be about, but even though clearly in TNA this was it was under Hogan and Bischoff. So even though Ric Flair had these four guys at the front, he was mainly the figurehead there.
I would say a better
But what I
comparison
want to say
would
was
be
this
Don
could be done
Callis
this
and
could
Don
be done.
Callis family.
Yeah, in a way, like I was gonna say, it could be if Jericho did something like that, it could be done in a better approach. Like it can actually be what the Jericho Appreciation Society could have been when he had Garcia, Daddy Magic, Cool Hand, and then later Sammy Guevara into the fold. That could have been and with Jake Hager, but Jake he's sparingly.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, but personally for me, I think Jericho he needs to really just ease on back. He doesn't need to truly transition into it. He can still wrestle maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks to really put the kind of like what MJF did during his heel run. He would wrestle every now and then, but he put the people he had people go through hoops.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say during this match, though, it really was kind of like a good moment. It was good. Like we're seeing Hook being used more and more in matches.
Yeah.
Like clearly, he is definitely being seen as a new as the guy. They're definitely. Well, I won't say pushing a rock on it, but they're definitely putting him more and more out in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And,
so
go ahead.
I was going to get to the end of the match here. Shibata's in the ring with
he's in the ring with Lee Moriarty. Yeah,
Lee Moriarty. That's right. And he goes to tag in Jericho. Or no, he goes to tag in Hook, and Jericho knocks Hook off of the ropes because Shibata decided to go against Jericho's, I guess, master plan for this match.
Which I thought was kind of stupid because clearly you saw with Shane Taylor Promotions, they weren't going to give Jericho the plan was never going to work. The moment Anthony Ogogo tagged himself out, and then Shane and Lee were tagging him back and forth.
It also made Jericho look stupid saying all that on air, like right before the match.
I don't know. I guess it was just I don't know. I thought it was kind of. I thought it was kind of ridiculous, but I think what saved it for me was just with Shibata with the phone translator. Just
love your necklace.
Yeah, it was like Bet. What's his deal? I
love your necklace,
and I like that too. That's what I actually like. Shibata's not saying a word, but he's using that, and honestly, I think it works for me. Other people are going to think it's hacky. Yep. So people are going to go, why isn't he speaking? I'm sorry, dude. Until you can learn a different language, just shut your fucking mouth.
Or the fact that, Shibata has always lived in Japan.
Yeah.
He has never been outside. He's wrestled in the U.S., of course, but, he hasn't learned the language like a Shinsuke Nakamura has.
Or Okada's learning the language.
Okada, yeah. But the idea of also, I think it makes him look badass when he doesn't have to speak. He gets the phone to speak for him, and then he just goes out there and kicks people in the face.
Yeah. That's one thing I understand with wrestling that, yes, it is important that we get people to do promos and speak.
Mm-hmm.
But if one thing has been proven, regardless, that sometimes a silent wrestler can speak volumes over a wrestler that cuts promotion every week.
Yep. But at the end of this match, you have Lee Moriarty pinning Shibata, which is actually pretty big because they've been actually protecting Shibata a lot lately. He hasn't taken a lot of losses.
A few times, when you see him on television, he'll take a lot either a tag match or when he lost his pure championship to Wheeler Yuta, who we haven't seen on television for a while.
Yeah, but this also puts over Shane Taylor Promotions big because what I want to see is BCC versus Shane Taylor Promotions. I think if you just take these three guys and say, "Hey, go punch the shit out of each other for 20 minutes,"
I honestly think that will be a fantastic match. That will be fucking incredible, especially with Anthony Ogogo going against someone like John Moxley.
Claudio.
That is definitely testing him. That is putting his mettle to the test.
Or, dude, having Ogogo go one-on-one with Claudio Castagnoli and just say, "Hey, uppercuts versus strikes, go." Who can knock out each other the most? That would be fucking epic.
Oh, but I mean, it's we can definitely we can dream about that as much as we want. It's also, I mean, but I think moving on there, we do. It's clear from at this moment that Jericho, at least the storyline, that turn's coming. I mean,
Yeah, 100%.
who
To
knows
be
where?
fair, Jericho always has played a better heel in my opinion. He's an okay good guy, but him as a bad guy, that'll work.
I think the thing with Jericho is there's just not the right storyline to work from his face. The only time he truly
Mm-hmm.
worked as a face was when he's going up. Is that if you put a bigger, more bastard heel against him, kind of like when it was against MJF,
Yeah.
and or even earliest WWE run when he got that one night win of the title against Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
Or of course he would call Stephanie McMahon a sleazy, slutty trash bag hoe. Jericho works when he's
Plus,
able to put his attitude in there. If he tries
yeah.
to lean back and be too clean, white meat baby face, it doesn't work.
Mm,
It works for certain wrestlers, but Jericho has shown with his personality that it doesn't work for him.
yeah. Plus, I mean, with all the Kylie Ray situation, even though I know most of that has been debunked, a lot of people turned on Jericho at that moment too, and they're not going to come back. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got long ways to win them over. I mean, I know he can, but it's at this point.
yeah, so let's move on. Okada had a squash match against, I don't know who this dude was.
Oh, I forgot his name.
That's
But I love the physicality that Okada was showing in this match. The face was like every time he's wrestling, he's just like that. He has that deadpan look on his face, like the announcers were going. Like he looked like he's bored. Like this is already boring him.
dude, Okada as a heel was something I didn't know I wanted, and now him smiling at when he's with the Young Bucks and that kind of that $1 million like asshole smile he does is so hilarious every time he does it. But yeah, Okada wins the squash match, and then he accepts Pac's challenge for Dynasty. So at Dynasty we have a Pac versus Okada for the Continental Championship, and I am so excited for that match, man.
And that is honestly is perfect too. I mean, Pac and Okada is a great matchup. It gives Okada more Okada's already he's on that superstar level. And he doesn't need to go through the ranks to prove himself. He's pretty much he's put on that place mount to where no. Okada's not proving. You have to prove you can fight Okada. But then I love how Pac comes in and just goes, "No, I'm causing trouble until you give me a fight." And this match, we already know it's going to be a banger from start to finish.
Oh yeah. So next we have the timeless Tony Storm Charleston Championship Champagne Toast for Thunder Rosa. I love everything that Timeless Tony Storm does. I love that she's being announced from the Warner Brothers sets when she comes out. I think that's hilarious. I love that they got the guy who does the Turner Classic Movies intros for TBS to do interviews with her.
Or something.
Yes.
Yes.
By the way, did you see after her last title defense, she called out Wendy Richter?
Oh, she's been doing that every time on the scrum before,
in the post scrum.
She's just even the first time she did it was at Wrestle Dream, and I just loved it. She's like, "We all know who's coming. We all know the rumors. We all know there's this big talent out there. So I'm just gonna go say it.
Wendy Richter.
I will fuck you up." And then she touches on it so many times. She did it again at World's End, and then she did it again at Revolution. So it's great.
This is the best Tony Storm possible. I absolutely love Timeless Tony Storm. But yeah, this thing immediately. By the way, I love the split, black and white, and then color. Whenever she's there, her and her opponents are like the one in color, and then one is black and white with Tony Storm.
Yeah, they are. I love they're sticking with it. And then, but of course, they do the champagne toast, and then she tosses the champagne Thunder Rosa's face, and then of course does the disrespect of wiping her face paint, which is
Yeah.
and Thunder Rosa honoring the legacy that she comes from with her Mexican heritage, which
Mhm.
I understand. If you follow Thunder Rosa, you know this what she does, especially if you follow her vlogs that she does. It's
Yeah.
something she's proud of, even during her time in NWA when she was coming up. And then, of course, later on, Deanna comes out to help her. She comes to assist Thunder Rosa, but Thunder pushes her off, assuming that it was Tony. But then Deanna like walks off, and then I just like the transition. It gets to Mariah May. She comes out, and then that just whole Tony's just like looking at her, almost like giving her advice, and then finally gives her a kiss for good luck. And I just love Mariah. She
I
always sells it as if, oh my god,
I'm getting affection.
yes. Well, not just
I
affection, but because the first time she did that, I loved it. The first time she did that was when, of course, Mariah, it was announced Mariah was going to face Tony Storm for the number one contendership, and it was
Not
this
Tony
whole,
Storm.
I mean, Thunder Rosa. Sorry,
Thunder Rosa.
yeah, my bad. That's okay. But now it's almost like the way Tony Storm is doing it, she's in competition with Mina Shiragawa because
Yeah.
Shiragawa did that with her in Stardom. She did that at a discard of dishonor before honor. No,
Can you
super. Well,
Super Card of Honor?
yeah, super card of honor, especially after the 6-woman match. I mean, she's like, I love that backstage skit where she's just talking to Mariah. She's like, "You came out." She's got the champagne. She kisses her and then gives her the champagne. It's like Mariah. Like, I love her reactions to both of them though. To where Tony, she feels like you said, she's been given adoration. She's given attention.
Hmm.
But with Mina, it's just more, oh no, oh I shouldn't have done that.
I'm conflicted.
Yes.
Um, I love that they're sticking with Mariah May being literally Timeless Tony Storm's understudy by using her old theme and using her old gear. I think that is beautiful. Reminds me of Miz and Mizdow in a way, where like Mizdow was Miz's understudy. This is the same thing, but I'm absolutely loving it.
But it's definitely also two different ways of doing it. Where Miz is like, "I'm a Hollywood star. You're just my stunt double and understudy.
Yeah,
You're my stunt double." But Tony Storm's way like, "No, you are my understudy. You must capture me in every sense." And so I
you need
love
to become me.
exactly in the like Tony's doing it, the an homage to the 40s and 50s era of Hollywood.
It's so good. So yeah, her and Thunder Rosa will be the women's title match at Dynasty. Kind of wish it was a triple threat. I would have added Deonna Purrazzo in there to
I
make it a
think right
three-way.
now, no, it first met with Thunder Rosa because Thunder Rosa, when she gave up that title, she was injured. She never got that
Mhm.
one-on-one she was supposed to have with Tony Storm at All Out that led to a four-way for Tony Storm to be crowned as champion.
Yeah,
And when and during that time, Thunder Rosa, she was still healing. Tony Storm has gone back and forth through the changes of her character. Now that Thunder Rosa is back, and of course she's been going slowly because she changed a lot of her wrestling style. She no longer
yeah.
uses the Thunder Rosa driver because I'm pretty sure it puts a lot of strain on her back, which is why she uses that Chakonga bomb.
Hmm.
I mean, she is more. I think she is doing more of a. She's adding more striking into her wrestling than the technical side that she did when she first came to AEW or when she was NWA World Champion. But it does seem to me that Thunder Rosa does feel like she's up to have this finally to have this opportunity to face Tony Storm at Dynasty, and I'm looking forward to seeing this match. It's clearly going to be. I mean, it won't. I mean, the match has the history behind it. It's just
Yeah,
not going to have that storyline that they were building up during at that time.
yeah. So we then move on to Mariah May versus Anna Jay. I thought this was a really great match. They gave it a pretty good amount of time. I think it went about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, it had two picture-in-picture commercials, so
Yeah, so
they
that
were
would be about
definitely
15 minutes.
yeah, they were definitely giving this one time, and
Mhm.
I really do enjoy that. I mean, Mariah May, she's great talent. Anna Jay, she's truly improved. This is actually the first time I've seen Anna Jay wrestle without that kinesiology, without that tape on her shoulder.
That's true, yeah.
Well, it looks to me that her shoulder is doing much better now, to where I think
Mm,
she can wrestle more matches. I mean, she was always wrestling a lot of matches with that tape, but that definitely
yeah,
looks to me that she's completely fully healed now. So I'm hoping
yeah,
this does
so,
open the door for Anna to wrestle more on Dynamite or be featured more on Dynamite.
yeah. So this match was kind of back and forth the entire time. Mariah May was definitely the aggressor in this match. Anna was in control for a bit when May used to counter to pin her, and then right after, Anna Jay applied the Queen Slayer and choked May out until,
Yeah.
yeah, Mina, you're gonna say her last name for me so I don't butcher it.
Shirakawa.
Makes the save.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty decent match.
It really was. And then, of course, once again, after when it's over, she immediately just grabs a champagne, holding, and I love that she's holding both her hands, all holding Mariah up, and then does the plants her the kiss,
Mm-hmm.
like almost in a way like it's like it's a cover of one of those romance novels, and then gives her the champagne.
Oh yeah. Did we miss the Mercedes
No,
Monet
that one
interview?
was afterwards. That one was before the main event.
Okay, so yes, Alex Marvez is talking to Mercedes Monet. She's pretty much saying that her debut match will be at Double or Nothing. I don't think that's to um, kind of make her debut important. I think it is going to be an important in-ring debut,
Her in-ring debut will be at Double or Nothing, which
but I also feel like she's not 100% cleared yet, and Double or Nothing will be when she is 100% cleared to go.
yeah, maybe, possibly.
Because the one thing I don't understand is if they're setting up Willow and Mercedes for Double or Nothing, why not have her face Chris Statlander unless she's not 100% ready to go in the ring yet?
Yeah, that's that's just kind of one of the things where like I get it, I can understand from Mercedes' character with recording with CEO. This definitely looks like something she would do.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, it's just like because every now and then, every time we see AEW bringing a new talent there, like a couple weeks later, they're immediately starting their first matches. But if Mercedes is truly not 100% healed up, because I have seen videos of her I've seen clips of her at certain training academies she's visited, but
Mm-hmm.
but if she is not there yet, then okay, I definitely get they're going to hold off towards Double or Nothing, which
Yeah.
definitely tells me that honestly, because they said she's going to debut at Double or Nothing, her in-ring debut will be at Double or Nothing. That tells me already that Willow will beat Julia Hart.
I could see that. The only
That's
thing
funny because in the interview, Alex Marvez brings up her injury at the New Japan event that led to her not becoming the first New Japan Strong Women's Champion. That because
yeah.
they had to change it for Willow,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that Mercedes was talking in that interview, it definitely does seem geared to me that Willow is set on her sights, and also in a way, it feels like this is a perfect way for Mercedes to get that one-on-one. I mean, maybe I'm not sure her flowers, but it. You know what? It could go either way, honestly, because if Willow does win, and then they do give the belt to Mercedes, that would be a short reign.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
What I was saying is you let Julia Hart win at Dynasty, give Julia Hart a big match against Mercedes, which is going to be big for her because it's Mercedes. Like, she's going to do well against her.
Yeah.
And then when Mercedes takes the title, then you build Mercedes and Willow, who is getting a darker side, going to the next pay-per-view.
Well, we'll see about Willow's darker side after Dynasty, honestly, because one thing we didn't mention on was during when after the after Adam Copeland got beaten down, Renee's talking with Briscoe and Eddie Kingston, and Copeland shows up. He's just fucking exhausted, so he really.
Oh my God, Stokely Hathaway saying, Adam Copeland, put the TNT title on the line next week against Willow Nightingale.
To be honest, that would not just funny, but that would be fucking fantastic. But unfortunately,
Willow's face up. No, what are you doing? Don't do that.
It was a funny bit, but honestly, at the same time, I'm like, Willow has that body physicality to where I could see her in some intergender wrestling matches. I'm pretty sure she's had some in the indies. It's just because it's network TV and they think, oh, how are we going to explain a man and woman fighting each other? how the fuck do you always explain men and women fighting each other in wrestling? You can
I
create a
explained
story.
a kid being a tag team champion.
Yes. How do you? I mean, how do you explain a $1 billion princess going to wrestle in a match, or how when Vince was in control? How the hell would you explain the shenanigans he did building up to WrestleMania 17 against Shane, drugging his wife into comatose, making out with Trish in front of him, doing so many deplorable acts in front of a comatose wife? Oh, the cathartic moment would be she pops up out of the wheelchair and then kicks him in the groin 6 ways to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're worried as men and women wrestling each other, I'm sorry, but there is a truly whole history of wrestling to tell you, like, if kids can absorb that, or a potential incest angle that Vince nearly pitched on 3 different occasions, not just with his daughter, but with other wrestlers in kayfabe storyline, then I think seeing a man and a woman wrestle in a match is okay. But
Yeah, but
tangent over. But I did like Stokely's follow up in that interview where he's trying to apologize to Eddie. Eddie immediately just goes, "Fuck you, I'm out."
he said, well, I love Stokely Hathaway so much. He said, Keeson, the last time I said he smelled like a Burger King parking lot in Newport, I shouldn't have said that publicly, man. I'm sorry.
It's still like a backhanded apology. It's like I should have. I don't regret saying that. I just didn't have said that publicly. And he's like, "You
Publicly.
good?" Like, fuck you.
Oh, dude, Stokely Hathaway is so good.
Yeah.
But, quick question. Who do you think attacked Mercedes during this segment? The obvious answer is Julia Hart.
To me, the answer is no one.
You're on that train that she
I'm
took
thinking
herself
that
out?
No, I'm thinking that because honestly, it was blacked out. All we hear is her grunting and some like movements happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be she did that to herself just to be like, just to draw some sympathy, because she's trying to, think 3 moves ahead and stuff.
I think the obvious
because
answer
of the
is Julia
blackout
Hart.
Well, yeah, because of the blackout lights. But if it was Julia Hart, she wouldn't have to just like she would have just shown up there. I mean, after the lights turned back on.
The obvious answer is Julia Hart. The fun answer is Willow Nightingale.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, Willow's so tired of Mercedes, just turns off the lights and, like, beats the fuck out of her?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think that's why I think it was just no one. It was just Mercedes, just to drum up seeds of discord. Like the Dynamite next week, Mercedes will just be like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure it is Julia Hart," but but then she could be like, "But I was talking about Willow before the lights went out."
I don't know if I would like it if it was just her doing it. I would much rather it be somebody, and then you can still be like, well, which one is it? It's one of you two, so which one is it?
Yeah. But we'll figure out what that is soon. Oh, shit.
So let's move on to the main event. Samoa Joe in an AEW World Championship Eliminator match. Samoa Joe taking on Dustin Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
Love that they're giving Dustin this main event spot a few days after his brother got the main event spot at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Shout out to Alex from Fightful Select. I was watching their post show Dynamite. He said, "What is up? Why is it that the Rhodes family in this 1 week have both lost to a Samoan named Joe?"
Oh boy.
I cried so hard at that. That was so funny.
I was kind of hoping that Dustin would win, and then they would
No.
What?
No. You
Why
need
no?
to have. I love Dustin Rhodes, and I get why he's put in this spot, but this was a way to make Joe look really good. He looked really good.
No, I still think Justin could have won. So then they could have set up next week on a Dynamite for him challenging. And even though the end would have been foretold, even though it wasn't obvious that Joe's retaining, but I would have loved the fact that Dustin just goes, "I got bloodied, I got beaten like crazy just to earn a shot against him. Now I have that shot. Now see what else." And Joe thinks that's how like I know Dustin's good. It's just to me, I'm like, just put that like set up that glimmer of hope. Like it was never like Justin's not gonna win, but set up that glimmer of hope to be like maybe you can see in the future down the road Justin could get some title opportunities, not just at the AEW belt, but at other belts. I
Mhm.
mean, he had that shot against Christian for the TNT Championship. Maybe he'll accept the Cope Open for that one. Maybe he will be the one person to challenge Roger Strong in another Eliminator match. And if he did win this, he could have been in a promo. I won an Eliminator match for the world title, so Roger Strong should be more worried about me beating him twice. You know,
That's fair, but I also feel like one, the crowd would have turned on it immediately.
fuck the
But two,
crowd. Jesus Christ.
but you you have to keep your fan base happy. And I feel like you're setting up such a great story with Joe and Swerve right now that if Joe takes a loss, it kind of hurts him going into his title defense.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's an eliminator match. It would not have if Joe lost, then guess what? The person has a guaranteed shot at the championship. Doesn't mean that they could doesn't mean in most situations they could challenge next week. Let's say Dustin did win. He could challenge whoever comes out of Dynasty. He could challenge Joe or he could challenge Swerve. That's the one thing I appreciate with these eliminator matches. Like even if the champion does lose, this was just a non-title scenario. I mean, at least it's better than on Raw than what WWE did was, oh, they get a pin over the champion, so then like in a tag match, so then it qualifies them for a shot at the title. At least in here it goes, I beat you one on one. I have the right to face. I have a right for that championship. But in a way, they can decide when they want to use it. At
Yeah,
least for a
but
month.
I
Like
also
set
feel
some
like
parameters. Like set parameters around the eliminator, like eliminator
mhm,
stakes. Like for the eliminator, if the challenger wins, they have 1 month to decide when they want to use that opportunity.
mhm.
That way, it doesn't loom over the champions. That way, it doesn't loom over for weeks and months on end. It'll be like, okay, from April, and then you have until May if you want to use it.
Yeah, but I also feel like the story that was told throughout the night was that Swerve attacking Joe at the beginning of the show really fucked with Dustin Rhodes because now Samoa Joe is angry and he's out for blood, which could kind of loosely tie in to when Dustin fought Swerve on Dynamite a few months ago when he tore up Dustin's ankle and stuff. That could be like another thing to be like, well, you pissed him off. You made him come out and bloody me, and embarrass me. Like this could start another kind of angle leading to down a few months, but also,
That's why I'm thinking that if Dustin had won that eliminator, instead of maybe waiting to challenge Joe and Swerve does come out, Dustin can approach Swerve on a Dynamite and go, "You remember World's End? I didn't forget World's End. You beat me. You humiliated me in front of a live crowd in New York. You nearly tried to end my career. Well, now I want to end your run as world champion. Sure, it might get some boos for Dustin, but in storyline wise, he has every right to want to stick it in Swerve's face. Look, we already know Swerve. Joe won 100%. That happened, but I'm
yeah,
just saying that for more different. Instead of sometimes the story needs to go in a straight line, but I'm just saying sometimes you can have it branch off in different directions still while keeping while you're still heading to the same destination.
mhm.
Like
But
I don't mind that most of the time. I get it. The crowd, the fans may not have been happy about it, but Dustin Rhodes has shown he is loyal to AEW. He's going to be that guy to cut passionate promos against wrestlers who are pretty much like with Joe and Christian's position, who are pieces of shit, and he'll be that guy to step up. And him having if he had won that eliminator match, I could have seen him in the opportunity to go up against Swerve and see if Swerve is still like, if you really are trying to change a new leaf, you will accept my challenge. I mean, it doesn't need to be set for Double or Nothing, but it can just be set for a Dynamite.
yeah, I get what you're trying to say. I don't think Dustin, and
Yeah,
I love Dustin Rhodes. I think Dustin Rhodes is awesome. I think he's found the fountain of youth, and he's a selfish man for not sharing it with the world because the guy looks better now than he did when he was younger. but I don't know if you can have me buy that he's a world title contender.
Really?
Yeah, personally, he is somebody who, when put into a great story, he can have great matches and great promos. I hate to say this, I think it's the age of him. I think it's like, well, when you think of AEW, you think of either established guys who are kind of older, like Joe, but they're not, 50s, almost 60 years old, like Dustin is. Like, Joe can still go in the ring and he's still active, but you think of younger guys. I think when the belt goes to Swerve, then you're going to get younger guys like Osprey and Swerve and all these younger guys. And I don't know if you can. Me personally, I can't buy that almost 60-year-old Dustin Rhodes can be a world title contender right now. But like a mid card title, yeah, I could see him going for that. Or if he wants to team up with somebody new and start a tag team run, I could definitely see that as well. Someone who kind of rejuvenizes his career, I could see that as well, because then that's also bringing up somebody younger. I don't know. I feel like with AEW, the great thing about it is that you have so many younger guys on the roster that I feel like giving a world title shot to Dustin Rhodes kind of feels awkward. It feels like something WWE would do.
But how would it be awkward though? Because AEW was kind of it brought Dustin it gave Dustin Rhodes a second wind in his
Mm-hmm.
career, especially after when he had left WWE. That match between him and Cody at that Double or Nothing was fantastic and
Yeah,
storyline
definitely.
wise. Like it really brought the world back to realize, oh no, Dustin Rhodes is not only a great wrestler, but this guy can go. And that
Oh,
code red that
definitely.
he had done, that code red he did on Joe was fucking fabulous
Oh,
on
it was great. Again, I'm not saying that Dustin Rhodes as a performer or as a promo is bad. Not at all. I'm just saying, like, when I look at AEW, I think of establishing younger talent, and that's what Joe's doing with Swerve. Because I guarantee you that Swerve's going over at Dynasty. But giving a title shot to Dustin Rhodes, it would just seem kind of awkward to me, because it's like you're giving a title to the younger guy, but then the older veteran is coming in to take a title shot away from somebody who could probably be built up as a viable younger contender. But that's just me personally. Like, that's nothing against Dustin. That's nothing against his in-ring ability. I think he's still fucking awesome. But I would like to see him work around the mid card. Maybe TNT. Maybe um, um,
it.
international title. Stuff like that.
Okay. I mean, this is kind of a moot point at this point. Let's just move on to our topic of the night.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Joe did win because uh, he hit Dustin with the title and just like pinned him.
Yep.
Kind of a anticlimactic conclusion. But Joe puts Dustin in the Coquina clutch after the match. Swerve comes out from out of fucking nowhere. I love that the camera was focused on Joe, so you didn't see Swerve come in. Hits him with the house call, grabs the chain, and decks Joe in the face with it to end the show. But yes, let's get to the main topic, which is the Young Bucks present backstage footage from All In, and we'll discuss it for the first time. I'm gonna start with you because I have some conflicting feelings on this. What did you think about this whole segment?
I was really hoping this was just going to be a bit like that plays into the Young Bucks rivalry with FTR.
It kind of was, but not
I
in the
know,
way I
but
thought it.
they used it as a way of us trying to pin it on FTR, which was kind of stupid. No, what I'm saying they
I
could have
like
just
that part
they could
actually.
they could have just shown like some all in footage of FTR confronting the Young Bucks after the Bucks refused to shake their hands at All In, and that could have been their way of just going like, that's the confrontational footage, but and it's weird though, because because when that was promoted, they kept saying they're going to show you footage at All In. So many, the internet was hyping up that it was Punk. They
Mm.
never really said it. But then sources like Sean Ross Sapp, Brian Alvarez were saying, oh no, it's the actual footage there. So it was really like unfortunate in this situation if none of those men had spoken up and they just let it sit out there and let the internet and let it fester in the internet, because at this point the internet will take anything and then turn it and let it fester like a Pepe Sylvia conspiracy theory board.
Mm.
Anyone got that reference?
Always Sunny.
Yes. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. That's why I'm like, it can just be that. I mean, it was clear they put themselves in the corner. There really was going to be no win. This was a no-win scenario. To me, if AEW had just let WWE kept running their mouths over the weekend, because to be honest, AEW got so much free press because of the CM Punk, because of Ariel, whatever the fuck his last name is. Don't want to know his fuck. Actually, I was going to continue on saying I don't care about his last name because that guy's not an actual unbiased journalist.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, that's completely okay. It was just clear to me that all AEW just had to do was just ride that wave until Dynamite and just be like, look, this is our show. Other than Will Ospreay's little retort on what was happening to him personally, that could have been just the only dig. Everything else could have just been. And besides, anyway, if you actually watch the interview, Punk is he may be telling his side of the story, but it's constant contradictions of what he is talking about. He's being hypocritical and paradoxical all within every question he's being asked. Sure, he has a right to feel that way on how he thinks the direction of AEW was going. But let's be honest, if you really look at his promo as he did in AEW when he first showed up on Rampage, and then his AEW and WWE, that man is pretty much just rehashing everything he did on the AEW in WWE during that build up to the Royal Rumble, if you were paying attention. But that being said, that footage, man, that really was kind of like that really brought everything to a grinding halt.
I do love how in this footage you saw how quick Samoa Joe and Chris Hero were, like right on the spot. Also, did you watch the interview with Punk and Hawani, right?
I only watched clips. I didn't watch all of it.
Did you listen to the part where he talked about the actual incident, the All-In incident?
I do remember him talking about that, yes.
Did he mention that Perry walked up to him, or did he walk up to Perry in that interview? Do you remember?
He said he did. He said he approached Perry while they were in, and he said they were having a talk. And I can't remember much. He's saying that they were having like a back and forth, almost in a way as if, I don't know. The way
I did see Perry kept messing with his hair, kind of flipping his hair. I don't know what that was about.
I think maybe he was just. It didn't look like really much. It looked like they were just having a conversation, and maybe the fact that Punk was getting more and more in his face, Perry was just feeling uncomfortable, so maybe he was just moving his hair out the way. That's the thing. There was just there was just no audio, no subtitles. What was going on?
By the way, why did Wembley Stadium have such bad fucking cameras? That's like 144p. Like, come on, show me fucking 4K. Like, get 4K cameras in there, bro.
Well, I don't know exactly what kind of camera. I mean, it does. Who knows what their camera setup was? I mean, Wembley Stadium is an old arena for a while. Maybe they have more of the updated
CRT.
cameras. Maybe.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just mainly going to say that maybe who knows what certain venues have for their camera systems. Not everyone's going to have the up-to-date, state-of-the-art cameras that they would have. But to me, it just seems like because this was just a sporting event, maybe the cameras was just low. I mean, I've been behind this. I've worked at stadiums where I've gone across security offices, and I've seen that the footage may be at 360p resolution over the standard 720 or now the 1080 nowadays.
Yeah.
The thing is that when it comes with these cameras, it's all when it's all connected to an electric grid. It's all about conserving power. So sometimes these cameras might have a few things. You might see the whole. You might have great visual, but sometimes what's going to be sacrificed is audio, or what's going to be sacrificed is maybe certain picture. But who knows
So
exactly?
move on to let's move on to the actual footage. What did you think about them actually showing the footage?
I honestly think they really shouldn't have. Or I really kept hoping that it really was just more than. I really was just hoping it was just a skit, like a BTES kind of skit, like they did. Like after the whole thing was over, you see the Bucks being confronted by FDR, like actual, like I felt like a produced skit there, because it would have stayed in line with the Punks. It would have stayed in line with the Bucks EVP attitude and their characters. Like they're, oh god, it's really confusing because I honestly know exactly, like right now, I'm already seeing a 70-30 discourse of AEW is officially dead, or then they can't recover from this. You know, even if it wasn't anti AEW people, but people who like
Um,
wrestling. Like we knew this was going to be a no-win scenario going on in, so how did they just felt? God, it's just really ridiculous. All he just had to
by
do
the
was
way, I'll
just.
say this: AEW is not dead. So stop
It's
with that
not.
fucking narrative.
Well, unfortunately, they're going to keep doing that. And the only way it will truly be dead is if they stop watching it. And to be honest, the more, even if they don't watch it on television, they're going to be looking at clips shared on Twitter, on social
Mm-hmm.
media. So it's not really dead if you keep the conversation going. I mean, that's
Yep.
one thing that this thing did. It's keeping the conversation going to where it's like, but also at the same time, I can imagine like AW has constantly had their name dragged through the dirt by WWE throughout a weekend. It wouldn't have surprised me that they would have talked back. They didn't have to, but they did.
I I know a lot of people are gonna say, well, why didn't they just forget about it? It's been 8 months. What you don't understand is that Punk brought this stuff up during the Arowana interview. He did not, when asked about what the incident, which I understand as a journalist, you're going to ask these questions.
No, but here's the thing. Yeah, the questions are going to be asked, but when you're being interviewed, you do have the right to not answer these questions.
Or,
And you go ahead.
or literally just say, look, they have their side of the story. I have my side of the story. You're never going to know what actually happened. So let's move on from it. That would have been, if Punk did that and then AEW came back with this, then yeah, AEW looks bad because Punk didn't drag their name through the mud.
Yeah.
But Punk, and again, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, look at the video. What did Jack Perry say to him to rile him up like that? You are supposed to be a locker room leader, and if you're letting words dictate your actions to the point where if a 25-year-old kid says something to you, you're going to push him
Yeah.
and start a fight, then you are not a locker room leader. You
Exactly.
should not be the leader of a locker room because you cannot handle your emotions.
And also, even though the Punks referenced the line that Punk said on commentary, yeah, if you have a problem with Jack Perry, then you are the problem. Punk really just showed that he is the problem. And I do remember from that interview, he does talk about when he was working Collision, there was a spot that Jack Perry wanted to do with Glass, and Punk
Mm.
said, "Oh, if you want to do that, do it on Dynamite. You don't have to do it here on Collision," which I get. But then even before that interviews, when Punk, even people were saying that, hey, Jack had gotten that spot approved by Khan and a few other producers, and not Punk.
Mm.
So in that sense, Jack Perry had every right to use that spot of Real Glass if he wanted to, even if it was to write him off television so he can go on a real vacation. And yes, he did that. Sure, Jack Perry made that shot. This is Real Glass, Crimea River. But like you said before, Punk could have approached this in any situation. And then, of course, in the interview, he does say, he goes to Tony and says, you need to handle this." And of course, Tony's response is, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And then I just remember people's response was they're trying to drag him like crazy. Like, no, Tony Khan asked a great question. What exactly do you want me to do with it? Sure, Tony Khan
And
has
actually, Tony Khan did the right thing. He talked to people. He talked to multiple people to go. He talked to the right people to go talk to Jack Perry to be like, hey, let's not do this glass situation. And Jack Perry didn't want to listen. He did it.
Yeah.
Whatever. He's young. He's gonna make fucking mistakes. So what? Your job should not depending on what other people want to do. You are a wrestler. You are not management.
Yeah. Even if CM Punk did have some control on the shows that he did on Saturday Night with Collision, it was clear that Jack Perry was not involved in his whole thing. Yes, he made a dig at him, but no matter what, I don't care what people are going to say if this vindicates Punk or not, which honestly it doesn't. All it just shows that Punk, he acted like a child. Instead of being the grown up and maybe approach Jack in a private discussion where they could have talked about this, he confronts him minutes before the pay-per-view starts, before his first match starts in the kickoff, after Jax is done. The fact that Samoa Joe and Hook, who is younger than Jack, has to pull Punk away, that tells me that Punk has no composure, and it just stands more to that Jon Moxley statement: weak mind, fragile body, weak spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And people can be around Punk as much as they want to, but for me, as much as that video just cinches the fact that no matter what Punk says, he came off looking very unprofessional twice in that interview and in this footage. Punk really could have been professional. He could have been the bigger man. He could have been, finally, this is behind me. I'm going to leave it behind me. He chose not to do that. And
instead of actually promoting WrestleMania, that was your job. You were there to promote the biggest weekend in your company. You decide to bash another company for something 8 months prior, and you don't expect them to fire back at you.
Well, I mean, he was kind of expecting that. That's why I'm thinking Punk must have said something that Punk was saying crap in that interview that violated some a clause or a portion in the contract. That's why I'm believing the AEW. I'm not saying legally they had to respond. They could have just sanctioned Punk legally and said you violated a clause in your contract. Because I remember before AEW, Ariel, he backtracked some of his words, like trying to give Tony Khan and AEW credit for what happened at WrestleMania. Of course, I won't be surprised now on Twitter he's gonna be all up in his feelings again, going like, "Well, it looks like trying to get some attention towards his podcast." Which
I'm so grateful I'm not on Twitter.
Yeah, I've honestly just kind of at this point Twitter. It's kind of like I check once a week.
I don't.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anyway. Twitter, it literally is kind of like just a petty cesspool at this point. There are some positive voices on Twitter who I always like to retweet and highlight. But beyond that, just seeing the wrestling community, the fact that petty people want to put petty Punk on a petty pedestal because they're millions, they can all go petty themselves into a petty fucking corner. All right?
So, my thoughts on this. They shouldn't have released the footage. Who does this help? It helps nobody. It's not going to help AEW because the anti-AEW crowd are not going to see this and immediately come back. Let's be honest. It was here to pop a rating, which is not a bad thing. You're a television show. You want to pop a rating. I do feel like this is going to hurt them in the long run. I'm not saying that AEW's dead. They're not going to die anytime soon, but this will hurt them in the long run because you're going to have people who are the vocal minority keep pounding at this idea that AEW is petty and they're doing this shit. But you can't expect somebody to be shit on every single day, and for someone that they let go 8 months ago to bring them back up. Say in that interview that it's not a real company, that they are not here to make money, they're here for 5-star matches, and not expect them to counter some of the shit you said. But
Yeah, it's just some of the
One
stuff
thing.
that Punk says there, which is completely stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, yeah, they're going to focus on 5-star matches because it brings attention. And there
To
is that crowd
wrestlers.
of wrestling fans that want to see 5-star matches, and guess what? That brings them money.
Yep. And why are having 5-star matches a bad thing? You're having great wrestling matches. That's what I want to see on TV. I don't want to see 20-minute opening promos and 20-minute closing promos. I want to see wrestling in my wrestling matches.
Yeah, from a guy who said in his promo on AEW for 10 years, I left pro wrestling and now I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
He's once again showing he's not a pro wrestler anymore.
Nope.
You tried
But
being a pro wrestler. His body pretty much said, fuck it. No, you're a sports entertainer. And even then, even then his arm goes, hey, you ain't a sports entertainer. You're just a schmuck. Like, I'm not trying to hit on Paul. These are just playful jabs at him. He set himself,
someone
up.
someone on YouTube said Drew McIntyre just doesn't have a field day Monday.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, look, I get look, as much as I didn't want that, this was honestly done more kind of even though the Bucks did try to turn it into a FTR set this whole thing up. Once the whole thing was released, they just left. I mean, well, they did speak a little bit, but then left it as is.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do say that FTR promo afterwards, that was
so
very
good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and FTR, they're not ashamed for their friendship with Punk. They're not ashamed of it. I just love the fact that they're like, no, we should be done with this. We should walk away. And yes, this is one of the hard things with AEW. When I will point out with one of their criticisms is how sometimes they do angles that's trying to blend kayfabe and reality together. This one felt like no one's gonna believe the kayfabe part of it.
So, on the FTR situation of it, from Sean Ross Sapp himself, they did talk to FTR. Tony did before they aired the footage, just because they were friends with Punk. They wanted to make sure that they were okay with it. And I can't remember if it was Dash or Cash, but one of them said, "Fuck it, let's make money," which I love that attitude. Like, fuck it, let's do it. Let's make some fucking money out of this. I absolutely love that they turned this into an angle between FTR and the Young Bucks. The whole idea of, I love the fact that, what was it, Nicholas was like, you know what, who probably was? It was probably FTR. And then Matthew was like, look, we can't say that. We literally cannot, like, say stuff that didn't really happen. And then they cut the cut, and then like, okay, let's show the footage. But I love the storyline idea that FTR got Jack Perry and Punk to fight so that the Young Bucks couldn't drink their water and say their prayers before their match.
That one I caught that and I go, wow, they're laying hard into their good Christian boys.
I love it.
Funny, really funny.
So I have a theory, and that's been running around everywhere since this happened. I have a theory that this is the way they're bringing in Jack Perry at. I
mean, they have done subtle nods to him 3 times each week, and I'm pretty sure after Jack Perry is done with his little match in New Japan in Chicago.
Oh my God, I forgot that's in Chicago.
Yeah, and he will be coming into the fold. I think he will be coming back into the fold.
So, the theory going around is that Perry is going to cost FTR the match and join the Young Bucks and Okada as the new Elite. I'm down for that. Give me that.
Honestly, I would definitely not hate it. This would definitely give Jack a new turn. I mean, he's already gotten a new edge to his career, being in New Japan. So this definitely looks to me like, yeah, I'm interested in seeing where this goes.
I love the idea that they were like, our good old scapegoat, Jack Perry, good California kid like us.
It is funny.
So, question: how bad is Jack Perry going to be booed in Chicago?
Now with this clip with that released out there, I mean, I'm pretty sure that he was going to get booed slightly. I mean, it wasn't going to be huge, but he's going to get that mega heat now.
I really want the Bucks to show up to that New Japan match in Chicago and just be in like a skybox area where like the Bucks are there supporting their California friend Jack Perry.
I mean, if
Give
they got him at Dynasty though, sitting in a box, oh my god! And the crowd does have that reaction because here the most hilarious thing I constantly keep seeing these fans is that every time they think they boo somebody or they boo something, they think, "Oh, we're giving them we're not giving them the attention they want." No, you are giving them the
Mhm.
attention. The worst
You're
thing you
giving them a reaction.
Yeah, the worst you can do is no reaction. But they
Hmm.
will never ever understand that because we are grown into this. We're unfortunately we've been bred and manipulated, indoctrinated into society to where voicing something actually creates change.
No,
You can
what
voice
creates change is not buying the product, not booing, not cheering at somebody. Like, do nothing. That speaks more than boos, cheers, 1,000 words, everything.
yes. Like you don't like a reboot of a movie's coming out? Do nothing. Don't buy tickets to see it.
Hmm.
You don't want to see a sequel? Don't buy tickets to see it. If you don't like a book that's coming out, don't buy the book. Don't
Hmm.
buy the latest iPhone. Don't buy the latest technology that's supporting a cause that you don't like. That's supporting a country that's committing terrorist acts. You know, don't support a corporation that's behind that's politicking their way to not allow their workers to get paid more. You can boycott things, you can voice your opinion against something, but the biggest action sometimes you can do is no action.
Yeah. So overall, I'm of two minds. I'm conflicted. I don't think this is going to change anything. People who are anti AEW still going to be anti AEW. The people
Yeah.
who are pro AEW are still going to be pro AEW. That's not going to change anything. What it does, and I hate it, is that it kind of grows in this more. It highlights the toxic fandom in
Hmm.
pro wrestling, the toxicity, the tribalism, and it kind of weaponizes that because now people are going to be like, "Oh, AEW did this, I hate them," or "AEW did this, I love them."
Yeah. But then you'll
It's
see
causing
them
more of a
pair.
divide.
Well, then you see them be hypocritical. If WWE does something like that, it's like, oh snap! They
Yeah.
lit the place. They threw them shots. Like Jesus Christ, if TNA becomes a bigger issue and they do shots like that, guess what? You guys will be shooting them down. Hell, if
Hmm.
ROH takes those shots, because that was one of the funniest things that got the Elite over during their time in the Indies, because they took their shots. BTE, for Christ's sake, was them, Kenny, and Cody taking shots at WWE that got
Literally, the name FTR came from "Fuck the Revival" on
yes.
BTE.
And even then, they even did more things. Other than FTR, they did the FTRR.
RR.
Yes. Or fucking
Yep.
Brody Lee. Brody Lee's full character was a jab
Was
at
Vince
Vince McMahon.
McMahon.
Everyone likes to do the whole ex WWE thing, but here's the truth. When AEW brought a wrestler in who was from a different company, guess what? They were going to take shots. TNA did that. WCW did
Hmm.
that. WWE did that too with other wrestlers. The difference is that then they ignored their past history. They would allude to
Yeah.
it. I mean, even with it's just the fact that it's true that some of these fans are simply just WWE bubble,
Mm.
and if and they are against anything that allows that bubble to expand because their mental fat. Actually, I don't want to be too negative, but I'm just saying they don't want to open themselves up to more wrestling. They want to limit themselves in one bubble because it's too
Mm.
much. I'm sorry, but if you're going to dedicate yourself to watching endless amounts of television shows on streaming services, but wrestling is going to be your hard line, your hard pass, I think you need to start changing up the habit of your viewing habits personally.
Again, at the end of the day, I'm a pro wrestling fan. I loved
And too.
WrestleMania 40. We reviewed it. We thought it was a really good show. I think night two was better than night one, but I liked the show. I thought it was really good. I'll watch Raw. I watch SmackDown. I watch Dynamite. I watch Ring of Honor. I watch Impact sometimes. Like,
Yeah,
I just want to watch wrestling.
yeah. Watch
And it's
and
hard. It's hard when people want to choose one over the other. Because in reality, when both are succeeding, when both have competition, that's where they're both going to shine.
yeah.
Why do you think WWE has been doing so good with booking lately? Because they're worried about AEW. And vice versa. When AEW was not doing well storyline wise and WWE was doing, now AEW storylines are getting better because they have to balance each other out.
It's just that it's more and more apparent now that it was never about competition for some of these fans. It was just about we just wanted this one thing to get better. Now it is getting better, so I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
dedicate myself to this. And everyone likes to keep. And it's hilarious how this community kept talking about, oh, we're gonna get another Monday Night War. Well, guess what? You're in the thick of it, and you don't fucking like it. Well, guess what, guys? I came in late in the Monday Night War, and I didn't follow that fucking crowd. And even then, hearing some of the stories of the wrestlers during that time who were heels, who nearly got like threatened in public from these fans. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a part of that era either.
And let's not forget, when the Monday Night Wars were happening, WWE was doing so many shots every fucking week. They had a regular skit called Billionaire Ted's Playroom
Mm-hmm.
that was literally making fun of Ted Turner. So they had fucking Jim Cornette give out WCW spoilers. So let's not act like taking shots is a new thing.
No, they just want it's just the selective memory of it. That's all. You know, they
If
don't
social
want to
media
remember
was
those.
around, if social media was around during the Monday Night Wars, we would have the same reaction.
Yeah. It's just literally like everyone wants to just pick a side and then be
Mm-hmm.
on because WWE's been around the longest. They want to stay on the side. They want to stand on that side, but ignoring the fact that WWE is no longer in the sole ownership of Vince anymore. It's a part of a conglomerate
Mm-hmm.
corporation. Two, if they are not happy, you know what corporation does with a product that's not working? They subsidize it and they will water it down. The fact just because
Yep.
WWE, just because Raw is going to Netflix is not a good thing. Netflix can choose how Raw is being shown on their sets. I mean,
I actually think it's a good thing because I do feel like when you're on a streaming service like a Netflix, you're allowed to get away with more. Like you're able to push the envelope a little bit more. And I hope this will lead to WWE going more TV 14 because then they're allowed to dive into more deeper storylines, actually more characters, not having to worry about a network like a TV network and their ratings and having to be like, oh, we can't do this storyline because our USA doesn't like this.
well, here's the thing. I get that maybe having a higher rating makes it much easier to do more adult storylines, but the problem is how it can be done. Because look,
Mm-hmm.
Dynamite is mostly in a way like a PG-13 format, and they're able to at least do some good storylines that touch on like some things.
Yeah.
House of Black with the whole spooky stuff. I mean, doing the blood, Tony
Mm-hmm.
Storm, Timeless Tony Storm. Oh, Jericho whenever he switches things up. I mean, we all. It sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
AEW is able to at least show like even amongst a PG-13 crowd, they can still put on some very adult storylines. The problem is that everyone's it's just this. It's just everything. This whole everything. How everything is set up.
So to close it out, my
Yes.
thoughts on it, I'm conflicted. I hate that they showed the footage because it's not going to help anybody. It's not going to hurt anybody either. It's there. It's out there now.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love that they took the situation that normally could be something of like, oh, let's just put this out, and they used it in a way to further a storyline that makes sense. FTR was friends with CM Punk. CM Punk was in this incident. The Young Bucks blame that incident on FTR, which now gives another wrinkle to their match at Dynasty. So I like the idea of it's not just Tony Khan appearing on screen and being like, "Here is the footage," but the Young Bucks using it in a way to further a storyline. I think was the best way they could have done this.
Surprisingly, I thought that's how they were just going to do it. They were going to open the show with that footage. But
I actually did too.
I do give them credit that they did do this foreign angle. Like like you before. I too am conflicted on how this
Mhm.
is. It's just that at least they did it in a way that pushes a storyline forward. Not
So
many
I
people are
also
gonna
noticed the
not many people are gonna see it that way. There are a
no,
few that will see it that way, and that's the kind of group I'll be focusing on. But beyond that,
same.
yeah,
I do love the countdown during the first match. It was like 20 minutes to the Young Bucks. Nice shout out to countdown to Cody Rhodes on Raw. That little kind of a friendly jab. Like Cody knows that it wasn't harmful. He knows that the Bucks were playing
yes.
with him with that one. I do like that.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I think it just outside of one freaking wrestler, it's pretty clear it's pretty clear to so many other wrestlers that yeah, this was just a little ratings ploy, and it's not going to hurt anybody. Hopefully,
I'm worried about what Triple H does. Because look, I love Triple H and I think he's doing a good job. There's no reason to go on an interview and say that somebody, you know, didn't choose you because he didn't want to do the work and grind. But
hmm
there's also no reason to go on Pat McAfee's show and be like, the only competition we have is ourselves. Like, no, you know your competition is. It's okay to have competition. Like, you don't have to mention them. But just say
no,
there are other wrestling companies out there that they're doing fine. They're our competition. Our competition is to do better than them.
yeah, and that other competition has their crowds and their audiences, and that audience sticks
Mm-hmm.
around with them. I mean, if you don't believe that there was competition, you would not have gone out of your way to get free agents, especially
Yep.
one that's coming in that's related to a Samoan dynasty. So
Mm-hmm.
it's clearly like there's the business side of things, but then you want to say, oh no, we're a solitary business. We have no competition. If there was no competition, you would not have been purchased by a fucking corporation.
Nope. So I hate the idea that like Triple H piled on to this bullshit instead of being the guy who was to lead by example, where he's like, one, why would you let your top star go on an interview and say that shit anyway? Because you know that Triple H had to have something to do with that interview setting it up. And two, why would you continue the hate on something that you don't claim is competition?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It's just it exists in their head, and it's
Yeah.
gonna stay there. That's just all I got.
All right, guys. So overall, I think it was a really, really good episode of Dynamite. I am looking forward to Dynasty. I think that is a loaded freaking card, man. I can't wait to see what AEW does in the future. Remember, guys, you don't have to pick one company. You can love everything. You can love one thing. Just don't make it to a fucking war. There's no reason for it. Ryan, where can people find you online before we head out?
Well, people want to. You guys can find me on my co-wrestling podcast. My wrestling podcast I co-host with my friend James Shimo and my occasional collaborator Brett McPherson. It's called the Wrestling Ramblings and Rages podcast. I don't try to do as many tirades as I did today, but every now and then we do. It's mostly on like certain topics, either news topics or whenever we do like a top 10 or a top 5 lists. And nowadays, if I mean, I think currently right now, James and I, we're trying to do something new. We're trying to do our own kind of like episodes where we try to pin a storyline and how we can book a storyline from a start to conclusion. So but currently right now, our episodes are available Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. We do have some currently released episodes this year from January, February. We do have some in March. We're hoping to at least get some more released out this month in April. Hopefully so. But you know, life gets in the way, so we may not be as consistent, but we are putting new episodes out there.
Hell yeah, man. All right, guys, if you did enjoy this, please hit the like button, subscribe to Nerd Entertainment Network down below. Join us next time for another episode of the Week of Wrestling. And remember, love. You know what? Fuck, I'm tired. See
Let's
you
do it
guys.
live. We're doing it live.